Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to episode 21. I'm pretty sure it's 21. We were just talking about it. I'm pretty sure it's 21 of our Top 5 Fridays ski industry news videos. And join me in welcoming Bob to our news studio.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Bob. I don't know if Bob really knows what he's getting himself into, but I thought we would bring him in so we can kind of discuss some things instead of me just discussing things with myself.
I'm happy to talk about skiing.
So here's Bob. You probably know Bob from our content. If you don't watch enough of our content. Anyways, so we got some good news this week, Bob. Pretty exciting stuff. I think some things that people have been looking for or waiting to hear about. Chances are maybe you've heard about this first one already. I know you guys are pretty well informed. But Alterra has announced their Icon Pass plans and their kind of COVID operating policies. And it's quite a bit different than Vail.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as a company, they're a little bit different than Vail as well. So there's kind of 15 like base mountains on the Icon Pass and then an additional 29 other destination resorts. So you get like, you know, if you buy the full pass, you get like 7 extra visits to the 29 extra resorts. So a little bit more challenging for them to kind of have one all-encompassing policy like Vail did.
Yeah.
You know, Vail basically said like, here's our policy. This is how it's going to work for every single mountain. And a little bit different for Alterra and the Icon Pass. So basically what they've done is they've provided a list of every single mountain and that particular mountain's individual COVID plans and whether or not they're going to require a reservation. Now, probably the most interesting part of this is not many of those mountains so far are requiring reservations, as opposed to Vail, which every mountain is going to require reservations. So pretty interesting, and you know, I think they also, like Vail in this sense, they put an emphasis on like this is a changing situation, and that they will be quick to adopt different policies if need be. And it sounds like that will be done on a really individual case-by-case basis for each mountain.
And that's good cover for them as well, to be like, you know, it's true, and it helps them, you know, be able to adjust their, you know, policies for safety, you know, which is just, I mean, that's just a good idea.
Yeah, and that's pretty much how everybody's going to need to operate this winter. You know, we're going into unknown territory here, and I think it would be drastically irresponsible for a mountain to say, like, this is our plan and this is what it's going to be like all winter long, because we don't know still what it's going to be like all winter long. But I think, you know, I have my own opinion on this. I'm sure you guys do too. Bob, what do you think about, in my opinion, I see two benefits here. On one side, with Icon, we're getting less restrictions. On the other side, with Vail, we're getting more consistency.
Right.
So kind of easier for those skiers to understand what to do. So what do you think? Where do you see more value?
I don't know. I think it's nice I think a lot of people just want to hear an answer.
Yeah.
You know, and whether the answer is, this is what we have now and it's subject to change, or this is what we're doing and hopefully it works. You know, I think people like to have that answer.
Yeah.
You know, and with these places that have so many different areas, like they have to be open to change. You know, and it's also interesting because like Vail has so many places across the country that have different clientele. You know, some of them are drive to, some of them are fly to, some of them are across countries. So they have to be a little bit more, you know, because they're more corporate, they have to be more corporate about it. Whereas something that has more, you know, a little bit more spread out like Alterra, you know, they can be more case by case. So I don't know, man. I think people just want to hear an answer, you know, and then they can make their own decisions and their own plans about how they want to approach the winter.
Well, So you guys are all skiers, so let us know in the comments. You know, we have plans now from Alterra and from Vail Resorts. So whether you're an Epic Pass holder or an Icon Pass holder, let us know in the comments which you are and maybe why and what your opinion is on this situation. And definitely going to be one to watch, you know.
Right.
Some of these mountains on their list say like pending for opening date and pending for whether they're going to require a reservation or not. Still, most say that they're not. But this will definitely be one that we continue to watch, as we always do. Next up, we have a news article that was put out from CPR, Colorado Public Radio News. And essentially the gist of this article, and I think this is a good one to have Bob here on because he's got some anecdotal information and experiences from the past couple weeks or so. But ski towns are kind of bracing for the potential impact of a significant population boom. It's something that we've seen from COVID. It's something that we're seeing here in Stowe specifically.
Yep.
But basically, home sales in mountain towns are like soaring as a result of COVID-19. Like the real estate in northern Vermont right now is insane. Really glad I bought a house a year ago instead of right now. But the big concern, or one of the big concerns here, is, you know, whether infrastructure can handle it, and also whether it will overwhelm healthcare systems that are specifically designed for big peaks and surges in hospital visits. So the specific example here was Summit County, and having lived in Summit County, I've seen this firsthand. The population of Summit County goes from 31,000 to 250,000, like all throughout the season. And the expectation is that that 31,000 number is going to be a lot bigger.
Right.
That the base population is going to be a lot bigger. So I think that's really interesting. And would you say you've seen it so far in Stowe?
Yeah, I even went, so the house next to me is for sale.
Yep.
And I went and looked at it the other day because a lot of people have been looking at it and just thought it would be a good thing to look at for an investment property.
Yep.
I don't have the cash for the down payment for a second mortgage, so that was kind of out of the question. But it was interesting to talk to the real estate agent and kind of get the idea of, you know, who's been coming to look at the house, what's their intended use, like do they want to move here full time, or do they want to use it as a second home?
Yeah.
And you know, she was very much like, well, it's everyone.
Right.
You know, and you see the real estate here in Stowe just going through the roof. It's pretty crazy.
Yep. You know, I know your kids have gone back to school recently and met some new families.
Yep. Yeah, one of the first families I met had a kid in kindergarten, and they had moved up from Massachusetts maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and here they are. You know, they moved up here, and here they are, and you know, good for them for making that choice, and you know, hopefully that it works out well for them. But you know, it's just you see there are a bunch of new kids in the school system, and you know, it's not just the hospital or the healthcare, but like you said, the school and
total infrastructure.
Everything is impacted by this, and so they're, you know, like everything else, it's a fluid situation. They're trying to figure out how best to serve the needs of the community, and you know, kind of get all these people on the same page. So it's been pretty interesting to see that movement over the past few months here.
Yeah, and I certainly don't think it's a bad thing.
No.
And I don't think anything in this article is saying that it's a bad thing either. I think it's great if people want to relocate to mountain towns.
Right.
It's great for mountain towns.
Yep.
But it's certainly going to be interesting what the short-term and long-term effects are.
Yeah, definitely.
So another one that we'll continue to watch. You know, I think as we get into ski season, we'll be getting a lot of answers to questions that are just impossible to answer right now. But I thought that was a really interesting story, and I thought one that we can relate to living here in Stowe.
Right.
A lot of people moving to Stowe right now. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
You can come work at Ski Essentials. Third topic of the week, and this is interesting. Bob just informed me that Mike Adala, our customer service manager, his wife just won a pass here.
That's what Instagram said.
Instagram doesn't lie.
I guess not.
Anyways, Bluebird Backcountry, a company in Colorado. They're basically a backcountry only mountain.
Yep.
They are expanding their operations with an additional 1,200 acres on Bear Mountain, kind of in preparation for an increase in backcountry touring interest this year. So last year they did like a 14-day test season. They were only open for 14 days.
Yeah.
This year they're going to do a 62-day season between December and March. A lot of the same things or same policies from last year actually carry over to this year. So before COVID was a thing, at least before it was affecting our lives, they already had a 200 person capacity limit, and they're going to continue that, even with this increase in 1,200 acres is a huge amount of space.
Yeah.
But they're still going to limit it to 200 people per day, which I think is great. And they also have, a pass refund or credit policy. So they've said that if they are closed for 14 or more days as a result of COVID or whatever, they will be implementing pass refunds. And then if you personally are not able to use your pass, you'll get a credit, similar to how Vail did it this past year going into this year, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit more generous than Vail, but I don't know that for sure. Vail basically, if you were over a certain amount of days, you didn't get anything,
right,
if I remember correctly. But I thought this was really interesting, just in a general sense of where we are as a sport, going forward. I would venture a guess we're going to see more and more operations like this.
I mean, it's kind of like a snowcat operation, but without the snowcat.
Yeah.
They have their
Totally.
lodge and they have their terrain, and
Yep.
you buy your way in, and then you get to use these facilities.
Yep.
Which is a pretty cool way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know from experience and from talking to people around here that there'd probably be a couple thousand people in Stowe and the surrounding towns that would be psyched if we had a mountain like that here in northern Vermont. And I imagine that's true across the whole country, specifically in places like Vermont, Colorado, Montana, Utah, real skiers zones of the country. It'd be hard to put up a backcountry only area in southern Maine,
right?
Because there's just not much there. But I thought that was really interesting. I can only assume that they're going to be really successful this season. I would expect that they'll have maximum capacity every single day. But yeah, really, really interesting. And Colorado Sun did a really good report on this. So head on over to Colorado Sun if you want to read more about it. But I thought that was cool, and just another little bit different than what we've been talking about over the past few weeks, but another ski area update for COVID.
And based on what we've been seeing for interest in backcountry and touring gear on our end, from a customer standpoint, there's just more people gravitating that way. So it's
definitely,
we've seen it just in our customers contacting us about that specific equipment. Yeah,
a lot of people are putting together touring setups right now. There's like a few skis over on the wall that I have set aside for local people that are putting together touring setups, and I think you're going to see a lot of it.
Yep.
Gosh, on the opposite end of the spectrum from touring, Bob, this wouldn't be, you don't do many of these, you've never done a Top 5 Fridays before.
No.
But this wouldn't be Top 5 Fridays if we didn't talk about something to do with ski racing.
Well, it's competitive, so
exactly.
That's fun.
So we've got some U.S. ski team updates from Skiessentials.com, as well as straight from the U.S. ski team. A couple different things here, but the U.S. ski team has departed for Europe. They basically had a window of opportunity where infection rates were low enough that they're kind of like slipping their way in there. It's a little bit of a gray area. I definitely would encourage you to read this yourself. There's a quote from somebody from the U.S. ski team kind of explaining it. But I picked out a quote from that quote that says, "If you're a professional athlete and can make a compelling case to cross the border, they have the ability to let you in." So in most of these situations, U.S. citizens are still not allowed, but they're making exceptions for professional athletes, and they have the authority to do so. What's really interesting about this is it's on a case-by-case basis. So they also referenced, they took Austria as an example. It is in the country's best interest to let people like Ted Ligety and Michaela Schifrin into their country for races. It benefits their economy. The race itself is going to get more views, all that sort of stuff. But it might not be that easy for everyone.
Right. So you better be fast.
Yeah, I guess so.
And somewhat popular.
I mean, and they also in this quote, they also even referenced like, hey, if the Border Patrol's in a bad mood that day, you might be going back to the United States.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of uncertainty for a professional athlete. You've devoted your life to this. Get on a plane, maybe they're going to let you into the country and maybe not.
They got to figure out something like the NBA with the bubble where they build these indoor ski arenas now.
Yeah.
They got to do that where they can just have you all be in the same in the ski racing bubble.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds crazy, but it's worked really well for the NBA.
Right.
Out of all professional sports that I've been following, NBA has run kind of the smoothest, I'd say. So, I think they're kind of trying to do that by limiting everything to Europe. There's no North American races this year at all.
Yeah.
So they're going for that Europe bubble. Right. And time will tell. Time will tell what happens here, whether U.S. athletes are turned away, and just how things go in general. Back here on the domestic side, NorAm Cup races are kind of still in a zone of uncertainty right now, basically due to border restrictions between the U.S. and Canada, but also just, everything that's going on.
Right.
So early season races have been canceled. January races in Stowe, bummer,
not so
and
much.
Whiteface have both been canceled. So right now, best case scenario, NorAm is looking at a February to April season.
Yeah.
But there's still, a big asterisk there.
Yeah.
Big question mark. I hope they can do something. I'm sure everybody hopes they can do something, but it'll be really interesting to wait and see. So, those NorAm athletes, they're not quite to the World Cup level, so they're not worried about whether or not they can get into Europe. They're worried about whether we're going to have domestic races here in the United States.
Yeah, and that's a bummer for us locals here at Stowe, and that those high-end races when we get them here, they're just
super fun.
Incredible to watch. I mean, these elite athletes are just they're just so good, and missing out, and these young kids or the younger program kids, they're like those are the heroes to them, and so that's a shame that they don't get to see that.
Absolutely. And I've been thinking about it for myself. I coach freestyle athletes in USSA and USASA events. So
it's going to filter down.
It's certainly going to filter down, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have any slopestyle competitions this year, which would certainly bum out a whole bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds that I coach.
Yeah.
But kind of got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's it for news topics. Last, we have our edits of the week. Bob, do you know who Alex Hall or Hunter Hess are?
No.
That's fine. So we have a trailer for Magma 2, it'll be a short film just featuring Alex Hall and Hunter Hess and their friends. Alex Hall is like the best park skier in the world.
Does he know how to do nose blocks?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's my new favorite trick.
Impressed by Bob's knowledge over here. Alex Hall does the double cork, switch double cork 1440, where he reaches both hands over here and grabs the far edge of his far ski with both of his hands. He's like 6'4" or something, so he's super long, flexible. Yeah, he can do things that nobody else has ever done. So check that out. Unbelievable skiing. A lot of really good crashes in that too.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a really fun edit to watch. Next up, we have a season edit from a young skier named Ray McDermott. This is my favorite part of Top 5 Fridays. As I've mentioned before, my esteemed colleague Matt McGinnis generally puts these topics together and generally finds the edits of the week. He's really good at finding edits.
Yeah.
Like, I've never heard of this guy before. So, I mean, I guess that makes you feel better that you haven't heard of Alex Hall or Hunter Hess, but they're like super pros. But Ray McDermott, I had never heard of him before, and he's a phenomenal skier.
How old?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Young.
Young? But
He
like kid
looked,
young or like young adult?
Yeah, let's blur the two.
Okay.
Old kid, young adult.
All right.
Ray, my apologies if I'm way off on that. But he looks like, there was some footage of competitive big mountain skiing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Did big 360 off big cliff, backflip later in his run, like really high level skiing.
Yeah.
And then he did a cork 5 into powder on head core 105s. That's not a twin tip at all.
Not a twin tip.
So that was cool. And then he's got a pretty stylish cork 7, I would say, too. He's got cork 7 lead safety, which is one of my favorite things in the world.
Is that like a mute?
Kind of. It would be like a lead mute. Anyways, last up is not a skiing edit. Often we slip in non-skiing edits, but it's the best trick compilation from the recent Audi 9's mountain biking competition.
Yeah. All those Audi things are crazy. Like whether they're skiing or biking or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are just as impressive as it gets.
Yeah, I mean the bike Audi 9's is easily just as impressive as the ski Audi 9's. This year they built the course in like a sand pit. So they were like kind of like going around in circles, like going under bridges and stuff, and then like double backing on their jumping over things, and really cool. I would check it out even if you have no interest in freeride mountain biking. Just really cool stuff.
But like as creative as the riders are, like the course builders and those things are equally
just
as
creative,
if
not more. Yeah.
Like I can't even fathom how they come up with.
Especially on the snow side.
Things. Yeah.
Like I can wrap my mind around sculpting dirt.
Yep.
The ski and snowboard Audi 9s are insane because they have to just like build a giant mound of snow and then cut it all out, which is just crazy to me.
It's pretty cool.
So that's it for Top 5 Fridays this week. Bob, how'd you do?
Love Top 5 Fridays. Big fan.
Good. Let us know if you enjoyed having Bob with me in Top 5 Fridays. As I've said before, my goal is to bring in different industry people. It'll be easier when COVID restrictions are relaxed. Bob and I work in the same building. We are trying to distance as much as possible here, but say if we were to pass each other in the hall, we would both be wearing masks. So we won't really be including anybody in these Top 5 Fridays that doesn't immediately work for us, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know what you think of the 2-person Top 5 Fridays format, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.